Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Chronicles, the 31st chapter. So as we see here in this chapter, picking up from where we left off in the 30th chapter with the keeping of the Passover that was orchestrated by Hezekiah, the king of Judah at this time, inviting the remnants of the northern kingdom to come and join in. And so we see the turning back to the Lord of Israel in this case, and the keeping of the holy day, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So continuing from that point, 2 Chronicles chapter 31, verse 1. Now, when all this was finished, all Israel that were present went out to the cities of Judah, and brake the images in pieces, and cut down the groves, and threw down the high places and the altars out of all Judah and Benjamin, and Ephraim also and Manasseh, until they had utterly destroyed them all. So in the spirit of serving the Lord, in the spirit of zealousness, they went and they cut down, broke down all the idols, all the groves, right? Those trees and stuff that people would be idol worshiping under. They destroyed all of that in their respective lands. Then all the children of Israel returned, every man to his possession, into their own cities. And Hezekiah appointed the courses of the Levites, or the courses of the priests and the Levites after their courses. And their courses here meaning their roles, right, that they played. Remember that the Levites were broken up into different roles that they would play by family, right? And by roles, I mean you had some that would burn the incense, right? Some that would take care of certain kinds of offerings, some that would, take care of the upkeep of the temple. So there are different jobs that the Levites had to do to maintain the temple and to minister unto the Lord. And so it would be like different shifts that, you would come on shift for a certain period of time, and then the next person would come on. And if you were of the line or the course of those that would be burning incense, then that's what you'd be doing every time it was your turn to come in and minister. So Hezekiah appointed them here, right after their courses, every man according to his service. Remember, going back to prior to this time, the temple, the doors were closed. So this wasn't happening, right? Which is why they had to purify themselves again. And then in this case, Hezekiah was like restarting it back up as it should be. The priests and the Levites for burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister and to give thanks and to praise in the gates of the tents of the Lord Yahweh. He appointed also the king's portion of his substance for the burnt offerings, to wit, for the morning and the evening burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths, and for the new moons, and for the set feasts, as it is written in the law of the Lord Yahweh. So Hezekiah gave a portion, right, of his daily, like his substance that would come to him, right, as a king. He gave that to be used for the different the morning and evening oblation, as was commanded, right? So for the morning and evening burnt offerings, the Sabbaths, the new moons, any time, right, that we would need to do a burnt offering or sacrifice there, he would basically give that from his portion. Moreover, he commanded the people that dwelt in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and the Levites, that they might be encouraged in the law of the Lord, which would be that tithe, right, that tenth. Remember, in the law, the Levites were to be taken care of by the people, right? So there was a obligatory portion of whether it was crops or cattle or whatever it is that you would make, that you would bring to the Levites. And so Hezekiah basically commanded the people to go back to following that law, so that the Levites can be in a good condition to be able to continue to minister and upkeep the temple, and so they can also do their jobs. And as soon as the commandment came abroad, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, and oil, and honey, and of all the increase of the field, and the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. So all the stuff that they got, a tenth of that, which is a tithe, they brought to the priest, and they did it, immediately. So there was a whole lot. And concerning the children of Israel and Judah that dwelt in the cities of Judah, they also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of holy things, which were consecrated unto the Lord Yahweh their God, and laid them by heaps. So for those that weren't in Jerusalem, they brought the best that they could, right? The corn, the wine, the things of the land and so on that they could afford to bring. And those that dwelt in Jerusalem and Judah, they brought like oxen, sheep, all of those good stuff. And so, as it says, they laid them by heaps. So it was so much they had to like group it, bundle it up. In the 3rd month began they to lay the foundation of the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. So beginning from the 3rd month, they started bringing in the corn, the wine, all of these things, all the way up until the 7th month. They kept bringing in stuff. And when Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord Yahweh and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned with the priests and the Levites concerning the heaps. So he inquired, like, whoa, what's up with all this? And Azariah, the chief priest of the house of Zadok, answered him and said, since the people began to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord Yahweh, we have had plenty, or had enough to eat, and have left plenty. This is more than enough, basically. For the Lord Yahweh hath blessed his people, and that which is left is this great store. So all the remains here is all that's left from everything that Israel brought. Then Hezekiah commanded to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them. So they started preparing separate rooms or storehouses in the temple, that they could then store these things, and brought in the offerings and the tithes and the dedicated things faithfully, over which Conaniah the Levite was ruler, and Shimei his brother was the next. So Conaniah was in charge of, you could say, the storehouses that were in the temple there, along with his brother, who was like the next on to him. And Jehiel and Azaziah and Nahath and Asahel and Jerimoth and Jozabad and Eliel and Ismachiah and Mahath and Benaiah were overseers under the hand of Conaniah and Shimei his brother, at the commandment of Hezekiah the king, and Azariah the ruler of the house of God. So any matters that would pertain to that, Conaniah and his brother Shimei would be the go-to people you would inquire about. And you had basically the remaining overseers that were under them, because remember, it wasn't just like one room, right? They built chambers in there because there were a lot of things that came in. And Kori, the son of Imnah, the Levite, the porter toward the east, was over the freewill offerings of God, to distribute the oblations of the Lord Yahweh and the most holy things. Now keep in mind that all these things that were brought for the Lord, right, from the people, the Most High wasn't going to eat these things, right? But they were to take care of the Levites. So the Levites would be the ones who would actually consume and use these things. And so here they set up Kori to be the one who was distributing and dividing the free will offerings that came from the people amongst the Levites. And next him were Eden, and Miniamin, and Jeshua, and Shemaiah, Amariah, Shechaniah, in the cities, and Shechaniah in the cities of the priests, in their set office, to give to their brethren by courses, as well to the great as to the small. So they divided it by course, right, by everybody's role, and then they distributed it to them, both the least and the greatest of them. Beside their genealogy of males from 3 years old and upward, even unto everyone that entereth into the house of the Lord Yahweh, his daily portion for their service in their charges according to their courses. Now, to make this part a bit clearer, we can read it in one of the other translations here. Here in the NLT, it says, they distributed the gifts to all males 3 years or older, regardless of their place in the genealogical records. The distribution went to all who would come to the Lord's temple to perform their daily duties according to their divisions. See, so here in NIV it says, in addition, they distributed to the males 3 years old or more whose names were in the genealogical records. So here in the NLT, it's not saying that it didn't matter whether you were in the records or not. It's saying here it didn't matter what place you were in, as in like what hierarchy your family line was in terms of the records here. As long as you showed up to do your job and your service, you got a portion. Verse 17, both to the genealogy of the priests by the house of their fathers, and the Levites from 20 years old and upward in their charges by their courses. So this division was amongst the priests, those that were officially officiated into the office of a priest, and the Levites 20 years and older who came in to once again play their roles. And to the genealogy of all their little ones, their wives and their sons and their daughters, through all the congregation, for in their set office they sanctified themselves in holiness. Okay, and once again, those that were in the record, right, in the, because genealogy was to track your actual line to make sure you are a Levite, okay, or a descendant of. That's how they would know, okay, you are of the sons of such and such. This was your course. This is your role. So you would get X, Y, and Z. So here, even like for those who were whose records were in the genealogical records, even for their children and their wives and their sons and daughters, they gave them something too to take care of them, because these Levites here sanctify themselves, right, in order to fulfill their role. Also of the sons of Aaron, the priests, which were in the fields of the suburbs of their cities, in every several city, the men that were expressed by name, to give portions to all the males among the priests, and to all that were reckoned by genealogies among the Levites. So they appointed certain men of the sons of Aaron to take care of the distribution there, all right, amongst the priests. And when it says reckoned by genealogies, meaning like if they checked the records, they found out that, okay, you are indeed who you say you are, or such and such. So you also got a portion too. And thus did Hezekiah throughout all Judah, and wrought that which was good and right and truth before the Lord Yahweh his God. And in every work that he began in the service of the house of God, and in the law, and in the commandments, to seek his God, he did it with all his heart and prospered. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2 Chronicles, the 31st chapter. So Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.